Hi, this is Steve, your YouTube English teacher, and today we are looking at boosting your vocab for the B2 or C1 speaking exam. You are expected to have a wide range of appropriate vocabulary. What does that mean? What's a wide range of vocab? My understanding is you need some more unusual words that you didn't learn at primary school, words that you didn't learn in the B1 textbook, words that maybe you learned from series or from songs, natural, slightly more unusual words. You have to use them correctly, and because we're in the speaking exam, you have to have them ready to go. You can't spend a minute thinking, oh, I know this word. No, it's got to be ready to come out. So in this video, we're going to think about ways of improving your vocab, of gathering more vocab so you've got it in there ready to use. Right, we're going to be focusing on speaking part 1 for this video because we've got different topics in speaking part 1, and then you need to have some vocab ready for these different topics. So here's how you can practice it. First thing to say is there's loads of topics, but I do think it's important for you to categorize them in some way because our brain works like that. There's going to be loads. This is a bit of a random list that I've made from previous exams. It's not exhaustive, there are more topics, but the point is when you are working, when you are taking notes, today's work, the topic was future ambitions and plans, and here's my ideas, here's my vocab, here's what I've been studying. Then you can go back and look at it again, and you will start to notice some sort of common Cambridge-y style questions. And because you've practiced them, because you've got it categorized in that, you'll be ready in the exam to use the vocab that you've learned for these topics. So this is a bit of a random list of topics, but the point is work in topics. For example, let's look at one possible topic that I found from previous C1 speaking questions and then how you'd study it. So we might be talking about lifestyles with questions such as, do you find it easy to adapt to new situations in your life? Or how important is routine for you? Do you prefer planning ahead or being spontaneous? That's a sort of a similar question in some ways, isn't it? What's the most valuable lesson you've learned outside school or work? So they're all about like abstract general questions about lifestyles. Here's my top tip for studying it from this video. We are going to use artificial intelligence. It's quite useful in this context. So I asked ChatGPT for 20 advanced vocab items, meaning words, collocations, as in little phrases that go together, phrasal verbs, etc., in case ChatGPT's got a nice idea that it wants to throw in, that fit this topic, that could be used in answers to this topic. Then I asked for a sample sentence for each one, and we got, boom, a big wall of text, a big word salad, which is useful, but maybe it's a bit too much information for you to process. So this is where we need to stop using artificial intelligence and use real intelligence. We need to use our own brains because we're going to filter this information and pick the things that we like. And by doing that, they're going to stick in our brain. We're going to understand them. We're going to retain it so we can use it in the speaking exam. So here's 5 words that I thought, yeah, they resonate with me in some way. I can imagine using this in my answer when I went down the list. And then what I did for each one is write my own sentence. How would I answer this question about being adaptable with a phrase like open-minded, which is a nice high-level phrase to use? And I said, I'm quite open-minded. For example, developing my answer, I moved to Spain not really knowing what to expect. It was a bit of a let's see what happens decision. So I've used the word in my own sentence, made it personal for me. I'm more likely to remember it. And I did that with 5 of these words. So I've gone from 20 to 5 to make it a bit more manageable. Stepping out of my comfort zone. I like doing this. Like in a speaking exam, you should be out of your comfort zone. Sometimes with my students, I say, I'm going to answer this question in Spanish. Oh, and I hate it. But I force myself to do it because I know that by stepping out of my comfort zone, I am learning and I'm improving. Spur of the moment is a great expression, meaning spontaneous. So we go back to that question about planning or being spontaneous. And sometimes I make spur of the moment decisions like, oh, let's go to that restaurant today because I feel like it. That's a nice bit of randomness in your life. Weighing the pros and cons, again, talking about your life and the big decisions. Like choosing a job or a house, then you weigh up the pros and cons. Again, putting it in my own situation helps me remember it. And I remember when I was deciding which school I should work at. I made a list of schools and looked at the pros and cons in each one and then made that decision. So this is like real vocab that people really use. And finally, go with the flow, man. When I'm in a group, I just go with the flow. I'm not really telling everyone else what to do. I'm not bossy. I'm not a leader. So using the vocab that we got from ChatGPT for our own ideas, that's going to help you learn it. That's the point there. Please try it yourself. Let's look at another possible topic, aspirations. So this is similar to one of the topics we saw at the start, your life goals, your plans. We have questions like taking risks in life, moving to another country, having a goal for your future, or luck versus hard work in success. Pretty, again, common ideas that you should be able to talk about at the C1 level. And maybe these are a bit tough for B2, to be honest, but you can sort of adapt them for B2. And you can do the same thing. This is your task now. Go to ChatGPT. Think about these kind of questions, copy and paste them if you want, find your own C1 speaking questions, get vocab that fits this topic, these questions, and then try and use it in a way that's natural for you to use it. That's our little task for today, for learning more vocab. The other possible way of doing this is to think about real questions that you'll get on a C1 speaking exam, such as the subject at school that had the biggest impact on the way you think, and then picking out that vocab like we did before, but thinking, okay, critical thinking. What do I say here with critical thinking? Or making a mark on. Now we know this fits the question because artificial intelligence had some idea of what it was doing. But then your job again is to think for yourself and express these common ideas on these topics. For example, you might say, my history teacher really made a big mark on me. And I still remember Mr. Chilvers to this day, who really taught me to question things. And that subject had a big impact on me because it really encouraged critical thinking. Wow, great answer. Using the key advanced vocab, slightly more unusual, impressive vocab, because you're consciously finding this vocab and then making an effort to use it, and this is going to make it stick. Can you do the same thing talking about exams? Pause the video. What would you say? Hopefully you're saying something like, the problem with exams is that you have to perform under pressure, and it's not really very realistic, is it? Like in most jobs, you don't have to perform in 1 hour and regurgitate all the things you've memorized. On the other hand, sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to work under pressure, so it's useful. But maybe a new approach would be more fair because people need to show what they've learned in different ways. And you're saying typical ideas like that about the pros and cons of exams, about having memorized things, learning skills, and so on. And then finally, how do we learn? And we might talk about our motivation or our intrinsic motivation. For example, when I learned Spanish, I just loved learning new vocab and being able to read a book. So I had this intrinsic motivation because I was motivated by the passion of learning itself. Or we might talk about how we did it through trial and error and making mistakes and then correcting yourself and remembering the mistake once you've made it so you don't make it again. So as you can see, lots of nice ways of learning new vocab. The thing they have in common is, of course, hard work and being conscious with your notes and being always keeping that always up to date. Right, I hope that was useful. Come back another week for some more speaking tips. Goodbye.